Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you tuning in for this conversation. I want to share with you a perspective about your spirituality and how to really embrace your gifts and walk into them confidently. Because so often I get asked about my gift of intuition and my clairvoyant gift, and people want to know, how do I know what I know? How did I learn what I learned? And how am I able to just do it as it appears without any fear and with confidence? So I want to bring this principle to you that I live by. I will never apologize for being connected to God, my ancestors, and my spiritual guides. I share with people a lot that I was the type of child, young woman, and grown woman that would get a message from God, from Spirit, about how to do something. And then I would find out why later. So I was that toddler kid laying hands on people, praying for their healing. I was the young woman who would minister to people, tell them they're beautiful, tell them they're confident, show them how to have fun, these types of things. I was the college student who was anointing things and didn't know why, but knew some things needed to be done, and I had started expressing ways of my spirituality that did not fit in boxes that I grew up in. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist church. I shifted from Seventh-day Adventism to non-denominationalism, from non-denominationalism to the organic church movement. And from the organic church movement in 2007, as a licensed Christian minister, I began to hit a glass ceiling. Even within my own ministry, I had a thriving international ministry. We were holding conferences and workshops for empowerment. Even within that, I was still hitting a glass ceiling in my spiritual development. And it was in 2007 that I began to pray for God to break every chain in my life. And see, when you ask for certain things, they truly do show up, because every single area of my life began to shift from 2007 onward. So with that being said, that was my journey. And along the way, there were a couple of things that happened that would test my faith and my connection to God. And people would, when I was in Christianity, people would deem me as weird. They would deem me as out of order. They wanted to know who was my covering. There was always some type of person who felt that they were called by God to cover me. I was supposed to be their armor bearer. And if it did not resonate with me, if God did not give me the memo, I was not doing it. Because I'm beyond the veil. And I was born beyond. I've always felt in my life connected to my Creator. And if I ever needed some information, I've always gone to the Most High. My mother did an amazing job of raising me that way. When I wanted to know questions about things, like, for example, when I was young in the Seventh-day Adventist church, the doctrine used to be, I know it's changed over the years, you could not go to the movies. And I used to always ask my mom, why do they keep saying we shouldn't go to the movies? And she As my mother would always say, go get your Bible, pray, and ask God to help you gain understanding. She would never give me shortcuts. She trained me to be the kind of woman that goes into the spiritual realm for insight. And it is embedded in me. When I was in her womb, my father would read the sacred texts that they held dear, the Bible, to me in my mother's womb, would pray over me, would hold my mother's womb and speak powerful words over me and my life and my spiritual gifts. So, Christianity, I received criticism because I was doing God's work without any human being's permission. I didn't have a bishop, or I didn't have a crew or a particular church that people could align me with. And therefore, people questioned whether or not I was qualified to do the work that God had gifted me to do. When I left Christianity and I started moving into the organic church movement, it was a little bit different because they don't have the hierarchy of like a pastor or any of that. They do house church and everybody has an opportunity to lead. But even in that, as soon as you step outside of the Christian doctrine, the religious views of the time, because they're always changing, depending on which denomination you're participating in. As soon as you step outside of that context, then I found that even people within that circle wanted to consider my spiritual gifts that God had given me as disqualified because I refused to limit how I express myself based upon their box and ideas. If I prayed about it, if it resonated with my soul, if me and God were in alignment, Thema was moving on it. And so then, when I left that experience and shifted into a new world, I gave myself permission to broaden my experience of being a spiritual woman. And I became familiar with African spirituality. I became familiar with other indigenous expressions of spirituality, Buddhism, Hinduism. I started to explore, and I remember how scary it was for me. One of the things I prayed was, okay, God, I know that you are expanding me, and I know that you are bigger than this institutionalized religion. I know that you are the God of everyone and everything, literally. I know that. So if I am journeying into something that is not in alignment with you, lead me in the opposite way. Shut it down. But you know me, and I know you, and you know my heart, and you know that I seek to experience the fullness of you. I want to see things the way you see things, God. One of my favorite prayers I used to always pray, help me see things most high the way you see things. So I had to broaden my perspective in order to accomplish that. I couldn't only see things the traditional Christian way. I couldn't only because the spirit that I align with is so bigger than religions. And so I gave myself permission to study things. I found myself reading the Bible in new ways. My introduction to the divine feminine was through Proverbs 8. And so I'm giving you a context for the principle of never apologize for God being your teacher. And there are things in our culture that makes you want to try to explain and rationalize and help people understand why you are maybe one of those people that cannot fit in their box. It's not your job to try to fit in someone else's box. Even in the work that I do, when I began the Womb Sauna healing work, the questions that I was asked and still get asked all the time is, who did you study under? Who are you trained by? And sometimes people just sincerely want to know, but every now and then I get a few people who are trying to understand who I am and who gave me permission and who gave me the knowledge and the know-how to do what I am doing. And if I don't fit in their box, then they feel some type of way. And how they perceive what God has given me to do is none of my business and has no effect on what I am here to do. And so when I remember when I first got started with this healing work, I would sometimes feel like, am I good enough? Who am I? Oh, you know what? I haven't really sat down under somebody and let them show me this and am I good enough? But every woman who was getting up off of that pot transformed was evidence from spirit that I was on purpose and I was doing what I was here to do. And over time, as I continued to stay committed to doing me first all the time, unapologetically, the fear of am I good enough dissipated. Because whether I was scared or not, I was doing what God was moving with me to do. I was doing what I knew to do until I knew to do more. And it grew my capacity, it grew my confidence, and it began to display wonders. Because whenever a woman is able to reconnect to her higher self and stand in her power to heal herself, that is a miracle. That is a miracle. And nobody can change that woman's story. Nobody can take that away, from someone when these kinds of demonstrations come. So with that being said, I share my story with you with my spirituality because I know that there are many men and women who are very gifted and sometimes wondering when is the appropriate time to express their gifts. Right now, the insurance, the guarantee that you have that you are on purpose, you are fulfilling God's will, you are doing what your soul has contracted yourself to do in this life here on earth. The guarantee that you have for that is to do it. There's a bigger context than right or wrong. There's a bigger context than right or wrong. You are the embodiment of the Most High. Spirit is in you. Reconnect. Do things every day that allow you to reconnect to that spiritual source energy inside of you. And the more you're consistent with that, the more you are affirming of yourself, and the more you do little steps. Every day do something that fuels your dreams and aligns with your purpose. Don't let a day pass. It could be as small as a tweet, Facebook status. It could be as big as a conference, webinar, whatever resonates with your soul, do it. You do not need anybody's permission to be who you are. You don't need permission. You just need to know who you are and to make a decision to be that every day. So I know the sensitivities that come when you're going through spiritual transformations. And one of the things I have done is provided one-on-one, private, confidential coaching for anyone who may come from a similar background as me. Maybe you're a Christian minister, but you're feeling like you're outgrowing your ministry the way you are expressing it today. Maybe you are a priestess or a priest, and you feel like the coven or the house or wherever you are, sitting down, and maybe you feel like your spirit isn't being fed anymore and it's time for a shift, but you need some support. I provide a one-on-one coaching service for that. And you can go to thewombsauna.com and you'll see a tab that says what we offer. Underneath that tab, you'll see Interfaith Intuitive Healing Services. And then you can book a time and date for your 1 hour one-on-one coaching session. The coaching sessions can go from 1 to 2 hours. What I specialize in is getting to the roots of things, uprooting things, clearing the way, opening the way for you so that you can step out empowered. All right, so it helps when you have support. It helps when you have someone who understands some of the shifts that you're going to have to make. It was hard for me to release the ministry I had poured so much work into, but it was necessary because it transformed into something even greater. Okay, so with that being said, if you have difficulty finding the information on that on the website, you can also call me at 1-888-576-WOMB or 9662. All right, people, I hope this conversation sparked something in you, boosted your confidence, and resonates with your soul and really helps you to put things in context for the work you have to do. There's a harvest of people waiting for you. Let's get to work. It'll work when you work it. Let's get busy. I celebrate you. I support you. And I love you. I love you. And if you haven't heard it in a while, I am proud of you. You are amazing, and you are a gift from God. Have a blessed day, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.